All right, guys, we got a good one for you. How to do underground buried downspouts in the north to prevent freeze up. Definitely want to see this. I give away a ton of trade secrets, all kinds of tips and tricks for the DIY and young contractor. Stay to the end. Don't skip around. Welcome to the French Drayman channel. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood. I'm going to take you through a full whole house roof runoff system installation. We're going to take you through every detail. Now, the homeowner bought these extensions from a big box store. This is the absolute worst material on the planet. Super cheap. The sun dries it out, it just cracks. You can just see how brittle it is. The other thing, when you look at this, you have to see just how deep the valleys are and how high the ridges are. It's exaggerated. By its very nature, they try to make this to where they can ship it, basically, deliver it right to your mailbox. So this thing really closes up tight. But what you end up with is these very, very deep ridges and valleys. So when you have these high spots inside the pipe, of course, everything is going to get caught inside this. Shingle gravel, you can just see the way this is made. The ridges stick up really, really high. So I just wanted to show you guys this because I don't believe people realize what exactly it is that they're purchasing. Now, this is a commercial product. It's an all-virgin material. It's super strong. It's never going to crack, and it has very soft, low, rounded ridges. The water flows over this, and it just has this rippling effect. It causes this turbulence. That's why this pipe is self-cleaning. You can see the outside of the Baughman tile is squared. The engineers did that for strength. So again, the outside of the pipe is squared. Inside, super smooth, low, rounded, valleys and ridges that cause a turbulence. That's why it's self-cleaning. So I guarantee you 80% of the people that watch this video are going to check out early because of some ADD deal. I mean, I'll end up with a bunch of people in the comments section asking questions that were answered. This is a complete video. If you are doing a roof runoff system in the north, or if you're a contractor and you work in the north, you want to watch this to the end. You want to get all the details because I give away a lot. Unfortunately, not many people can make a 20-minute video. It's just the way it is. They want to skip around, they want to fast forward, they want to get ahead, and you're going to miss a ton of stuff. And then you can skip over to some handyman's channel where he's going to show you how to do a roof runoff system in Florida, and good luck with that in the north. 2/3 of us freeze up in the United States. Most of my subscribers are people in the north because they know how we have to overbuild things to last through our brutal winters. So we're going to take you through all the downspouts on this house, and we're going to show you what each one brought. I'm going to give you tips and tricks throughout. If you're the young contractor, pay attention. If you're the DIYer, you're going to learn a ton of stuff. When you get done with this video, this is going to be your guide. Just save it right now to your playlist. This will be your guide for your installation. So we're going to take you along where we show you the D boxes that collect the shingle gravel. We're going to explain that. I'm going to show you the discharge end and how we do the connection there. I'm going to show you the knife cut that we put on the end. We run solid off the house. I'm going to show you how to make connections from solid to knife cut. I'm going to show you some really cool tricks when it comes to adding some extra venting to give you added insurance so that you don't end up froze up in the winter, and when you have a thaw, you can't discharge the water. So we're using the high octane Royal Blue. Baughman Tile Company is making this heavy-duty commercial solid high-octane armor pipe. This is new, brand new. It's thicker than any other pipe ever before it. This pipe will be available to the public here in March, this up-and-coming March. So I just want you guys to know that. Super thick sidewall, thicker than any other pipe you've ever seen us use. Now, people always say, what's with the blue pipe? It's a virgin pipe. Why do we want a quality virgin pipe where all the material is the same? All the material is going to adhere and stick really, really well. It's not going to split. It's not going to crack. Any pipe that's black is recycled material. It's regrind. It's garbage. It's going to split on you. It's going to crack. And especially in the north where we freeze up and the water expands the pipe. The virgin pipe, however, this blue pipe, it's going to expand with the freeze up and it will not split. That's the best news. It's rated for 200 to 500 years. So this is the knife cut. You can see the cuts in it. Knife cut is where there's no material removed, but you do actually take a blade and you actually just cut a line of slices in it. The idea is if there's any water in the pop-up, we want to put, say, 4 feet of this at the end of our downspout runs. Now, if you live somewhere where the grass roots get really, really deep, and you're going to have to do your own homework. If you're a DIYer, you're taking care of your yard, you already know. We're in the north. Our bluegrass doesn't really root that deep, and especially not in clay. These downspouts are in clay, and we're going to, put that dirt right back in on top. I'm going to show you how to do that, how to use clay, how to have success with that. And I'm not going to worry about the grass roots growing into our pipe. It's not going to happen. Again, if you're somewhere else other than in the north, we're in Michigan, and we have the nicest bluegrass. We just love our bluegrasses. I mean, look at this pipe. What a joke. What a piece of trash. What a piece of trash. Unfortunately, this stuff is sold at the big box stores, and it's looked to be at like a value. It's not a value. Not when it causes tens of thousands of dollars to the foundation of your house, because it fails. You can see that it's just thin and it's garbage. Now look at what we did here. The guys ran one piece of pipe. That was a beautiful run. Really nice run here. Look at one piece, no connections, no fittings, under the walk even. I'll tell you how they got under the walk too. They tie a rope to it. Once they get that dug underneath the walk all the way across, they'll put a shovel handle through there. They'll tie a rope to a shovel handle that isn't a straight handle. It actually has a grip on it, that you grab, a shovel handle that, like a shorter shovel. It has that kind of handle where you can tie a string in the loop on the end of the shovel. They'll stick that under the walk, and they'll be able to tie it to the pipe and then pull it underneath the walk. So that's a real handy tip right there. Look at this beautiful run. So you have a solid piece of pipe all the way from the downspout of the home to the distribution box. So if you hear me say D-box, that's short for distribution box. I get a lot of people in the comment section that says, what is a D-box? And then some just ask, what is the distribution box? So a distribution box is where you can run a pipe or more. You can run 2, 3 pipes into this distribution box. It has a solid cover. This one just has a single pipe going in it, and then it has a single pipe going out of it. And what we want to do is catch all the shingle gravel that's coming off the roof. Everything that's falling off that roof that's too heavy to make it all the way to the very end of the line, it's going to lose its momentum. It's going to fall into that D-box. It's not going to be a problem. So we're going to come out the other side, and we're going to hook up some knife cut. So you can see right there where we hooked up knife cut, you see where that coupler is? So far left in the bottom corner right there, you can see it. It's a black fitting. So right before this pop-up emitter with the turf restrictor plate, you can see that there's 3-4 feet of knife cut and then a coupler. And I'm going to show you how to make that connection the right way, the correct way. We're going to show you how to do that so that you don't end up with leaves and debris getting caught inside the pipe, because you want an external coupler. This is an external coupler, not an internal coupler. You want an external coupler for your roof runoff system. You snap that on the outside of the pipe. It does not go inside of the pipe. That's key. You see all these guys using these internal couplers for a roof runoff system or some sort of discharge line for a sump pump discharge line, things like that. That is wrong. You want to have an external coupler. You can use the internal couplers for French drains, anything that's perforated pipe. So we always do a vent up at the house, and I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. There's a bunch of reasons why, but we're going to go through all that. Now, again, look at that knife cut, how we added that 4-foot piece to the end. Look at that. One beautiful piece ran right up underneath the sidewalk. Now, check that out. That is a Y, not a T. 2 downspouts were wide into one pipe, and I encourage this. If you can only do it with a T, I understand. Sometimes it can be very difficult using a Y, but you want to use a Y often. You want to get in a habit of using a Y anytime you can, because it's going to keep with the direction of flow of water, where a T is just going to slam the water. All of a sudden, it's just going to come to a stop, and it's going to have to redirect itself, and you're going to lose all of that velocity. When water comes off the roof of a home or a commercial building, it is gravity powered, and when it falls off the roof, it picks up speed. I mean, it's really ripping. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of pounds per square inch, PSI, and you want that to just keep pushing its way through the system. It helps keep the system clean too. So when you just slam it, in a T versus a Y, that's a problem. All right, so one of these downspouts, the pop-up, after we ran it far away from the house, was kind of in a large indentation in the front yard, okay? So I'm going to show you some tricks here. You guys are going to really pick up on some cool stuff. And if you want to do this to every single downspout on your house, I don't blame you. So we're going to put a vent pipe in right here. And we're going to put a 4-inch grate inside a turf restrictor plate, so the grass cannot grow over it. That's key. If you just had a 4-inch grate, the grass is going to grow over that so quick, it's just going to get lost, and then it's not going to work. So what happens when you run your downspout far away from the house and it's in this large indentation of the yard? This does happen. You know that water is going to lay in there, and that's going to freeze up. The pop-up will freeze up. Well, in this case, we're upstream with a vent. What happens is when the pop-up freezes, the water will then discharge out of the upstream vent. But during the summer, when it's not froze up, it's not going to be an issue. It'll carry it the full length all the way out, far into the front yard. But here's a technique I just got to really stress, that if you're not sure how to use this, I'm going to give you the 101 right now. If you're super flat, don't do it. I'll tell you why. Because the water is going to come up out of the vent versus the pop-up, or with the water coming out of the pop-up, it's also going to come out of the vent. The vent pipe has to be higher than the pop-up. That's the key. If you have some slope, and you need 1% slope to have a good roof runoff system, most homes have this. Most homes can achieve this. I know in cases, there's sometimes older homes that don't have any grade at all. They end up flat, super, super flat. Then don't try this technique. Don't risk it, because it's just going to be a burden to you when you see it rain and it's coming out of both the pop-up and the vent pipe. But this vent pipe is upstream. We had good slope down to the pop-up, and water will only come out of it when the pop-up is frozen in the winter. Now here's a really nice clean out. This is a great place to run a camera through. You can put a garden hose down in it, and it's a vent at the house. So if our D boxes freeze in the winter, and it'll happen, one thing for sure, you can take every precaution. You could drill holes in your distribution box. You can put stone around it. You can do everything. You can put knife cut on the end. You can drill holes in your pop-up. You can go with a low profile pop-up. You can go with a 45-degree pop-up. All these tricks, all of them. And still in the north, when the conditions are just right, you're going to have freeze-ups. Now, D-box, it's going to hold a little bit of water, unfortunately. It's like a pail. It's catching all the shingle gravel and any hard, any objects that are like, say, a tree branch or heavy leaves, things like that. It's going to fall in the D-box instead of getting hung up in your roof runoff system. That's what a D-box is for. When you have organic material from the trees, sometimes limbs blow off trees and they land on roofs. They bust up in little pieces, and that wood ends up in your roof runoff system. It's not a big deal, the D-box. It'll just fall in a D-box. And a lot of that stuff, if it's a real old branch and it's rotted, it'll float, and it'll just float right out of the pop-up. Notice that our pop-ups have a big mouth on them. That's by design. We have the largest outlet of any pop-up on the market. This is so big chunks of wood can pass through it. Big giant leaves like maple trees, things like that, can just pass right through that big opening. So we're doing everything we possibly can to put ourselves in a situation where we're going to be able to succeed when it comes to the 4 seasons in the north, the freeze and thaw. We're giving ourselves a fighting chance in every way. And, leaves are always a problem. Trees are something you're always battling. This is knife cut, another piece of knife cut. I'm showing just all the little cuts, just the blades during the manufacturing put in it. And that's what we put and connect right to the pop-up. You can see little cuts in the sunlight right there, the rows of cuts. They didn't remove any material, so it won't fill up with dirt. It has little cuts in it, so the water that's left at the end of the line will slowly leach into the soil. Even if it's clay, clay goes from being hard like concrete to, muddy like pudding. So we know it does perk. And if you have it perking over a length, of area, like 4 feet, like we're doing with this knife cut, you'll be fine. Again, with the bluegrass, it's not an issue. Some places you might want to wrap that with stone and fabric, that knife cut, so that you don't have to worry about your grass rooting down inside that knife cut pipe. So just, trying to help everybody. Everybody's situation is a little different depending on, where you're located, what kind of climate you have. And I want to also point out, look how far the guys are going with these discharge lines. All of them. I mean, all these roof runoff discharge lines, they're not playing. They're not 10 feet from the house. I mean, these guys are getting around all this stuff. That's another thing that's fantastic about corrugated pipe. You can just go around this fence, around that garden box, and find your way to the property line. And again, look at that. Big tree branches that break off, chunks of wood, bark, leaves, all that stuff's flushing right out of that. Again, that's the largest outlet there is for a roof runoff system right there, and we own it. That's what's beautiful. So we have this clean out right there, that vent. Now, again, like I was saying, if the D box freezes up in the winter, at least the water can pour out at the house. It's not ideal, but you have all these fail safes. We're showing all the different roof runoff tricks here. Look at this. This is an A to B or a B to A. Look at that. Wasn't that cool how that changed directions? Those are at Home Depot. It's the only thing we buy from the big box stores, and it's probably the weakest link in our system. So we have a hole drilled in the bottom of our pop-up. We have a turf restrictor plate around our pop-up so the grass can't grow over it. That's key. That is the most important part of your discharge system, is having a turf restrictor plate. Grass grows over those pop-ups and they don't work. Once they can't daylight and once the water, can't find its way out, now it's going to cascade and pour at the foundation of the house, leading cause of flooding in the basement. So right there, they just put some knife cut onto some solid pipe, and you can see they use those outside couplers versus an inside coupler. And they taped them really nice. Tape them up really good with our 200-year super sticky, super stretchy tape. That way, no tree roots or shrub roots can find its way inside your roof runoff system. So again, we have a vent at the house, and it's also the clean out. We have a vent in line, and then we come down to the pop-up. The pop-up is lower than the vent in line. That's key. That's key. If you're going to use this technique, know that. And if you have fall on every downspout, you can put one of those, mid-line on every downspout if you're in the north. So good stuff. It's just a T, and then it tees up to a 4-inch grate. It's a vent pipe. And if you end up with a freeze up at the end of your line, the water can then come up out of here during a thaw. So it works fantastic. It doesn't breed mosquitoes because it doesn't hold water. It's not a basin, but it has a turf restrictor plate around it, which is key because once the grass grows over it, it no longer can daylight water. So that's why you want that big plate around that 4-inch vent pipe. All right, the guys are doing a great job. Look at the D-box, inside of a D-box. Check it out. Now we're going to go downstream. We're going to see one of those outside couplers. That's an external coupler with the tape. That's for the knife cut. Again, don't use an internal coupler because leaves and shingle gravel and debris will get hung up on it. And here we have this big opening that's hinged, and you can pass big leaves. You can pass wood floating, doesn't matter. It's all going to come out of these pop-ups because of the real big mouth on them. And again, if that freezes up, it's going to come out of this inline vent pipe that's upstream. And then if the D-box freezes up in the winter, the water can at least pour out right there at the vent. And you want that because if your gutter is full of water, then it's just going to ice up in the winter if it can't come off the roof. And then what happens, the gutter gets so heavy that it pulls off of the house. And that's a big problem in the north. All the gutters you can see on the older homes that, didn't have a really good underground roof runoff system and they've had problems with freeze ups, all the gutters are hanging far away from the fascia board. So you can see the hole we drilled in the bottom of that pop-up. That's key. Because you want that to be able to perk. It only holds a couple cups of water, but we want it to perk. And then again, if that freezes up, then upstream, you have that vent pipe, and then your D-box, and then another place for venting. So I love the vent at the house. It's dynamite. I'll run cameras through it. It really is easy to, basically put a garden hose in there just as a feel good to the homeowner. Most of our customers do that. Again, just so that they have a peace of mind. And it's super easy for them to flush out their system. You take the cover off the D-box and you shop vac all the shingle gravel out of it. And you don't even need to do that yearly. Now you can see this gutter here. See how it's pulling away from the house? That's because before we came here to put on a good system, it had a poor quality system. And that's what happened to it. All right, everybody. Until that next video.